First, Martin, we're looking at your chipping stroke. On the left is your technique before we adjusted it. You can see how you kind of just stop the club right at the ball as you kind of jab into it. And then on the right, we worked on following through a little bit more and having a follow through position and finishing position that's through the ball, not at the ball. So you have a much better position right there where you extend. So you want to continue working on that. We're not going to look at your full swing with the iron. I'm comparing you to Grant Wade, who was a tour player during the 90s and considered by many as having one of the best swings in golf. He's now one of the top tour player instructors. I've stopped it at the impact position, which is the most important because everything the golf ball does, how far it goes, how high it goes, how much it spins and curves, is a response to the laws of physics and motion that exist at the moment of impact. And you can see I've drawn a blue box from the center of your ankles to the top of your head, and you can see how you are on your back leg at impact, where Grant is on his front leg. The average pro will have 85 to 90% of their weight on their front foot at the moment of impact. And the reason they want to do that is they want to control the low point of their swing. They want to position the low point of their golf circle in front of the golf ball, so they always hit the ball first before they hit the ground. So the divots by the pros is always in front of the ball and not behind or at the ball. Now it's important to understand that the goal is not to try to match the pro's position perfectly, but just get as close as you can to it so that you improve your performance. Here we are in the 8th position. This is when the right arm is parallel to the ground after impact. And you can see how Grant has continued to move to the left side. His back foot is coming off the ground. He has both arms fully extended. Center of his weight is right on top of his left foot. And you still are kind of doing a reverse weight shift and you're following to your back foot. Here we are in the finishing position. We call it the 9th position. And you can see how Grant is well on his left side. His back foot is off the ground on the tip of his toe, and you are still flat-footed. During our session, I had you do some practice swings, and you naturally lift that back foot on your practice swings, but you tend to be a little bit more flat-footed with your ball swing. Now let's look at some of the positions prior to impact to see what influence they have on your impact and post-impact positions. Here at the start of the swing, the 1 position, you've got nice extension in your arms. You've got your hands in front of the ball to create a little bit of a shaft lean. So that's very good. Here I've drawn a box from the center of your ankles to the top of your head again. You can see how Grant presets himself with a little bit more weight on his left side than his right side, even at the beginning of the swing. So he's kind of in a little mini impact position to start with. And you have more weight on your right foot than your left. That's just going to make it more difficult for you to get your weight to your left side on the downswing. So I would like for you to set up a little bit more centered in your setup. And this swing on the left was before we started working on some of these adjustments, and you did make an improvement here. I'll show you in a minute. Here we are in the 3 position. This is when the left arm is parallel to the ground on the backswing. And a couple of points here. You have taken it back. You still have your weight on your back foot. Grant has actually increased his weight on his left side. Grant has a very stable axis golf swing, and he's swinging around a stable axis, and that axis is off his left side. He's not letting the axis of his golf circle move around. He's just stabilizing it and swinging around that circle without moving the circle. The picture on the left is your swing at the beginning of the session, and the picture on the right is after we worked on some of these things. And you can see how you're much more centered, a little bit more weight on your left side. You can see your leg and hip outside that box on your left side toward the target. And on the left picture, you were hanging back on that backside. So you made a very good improvement in adjusting your swing. Here we are in the 3 position. On the left was at the beginning of the session, and on the right was after we made some adjustments. In terms of your weight shift, you're doing a much better job of staying on your left side. You're not falling to your back foot. The other change we made is having you had a tendency at the beginning of the sessions to really choke down the club at the very end of of the grip, not the end of the grip, the front of the grip, almost at the metal of the shaft. And it really took away a lot of your power. You felt like you could have better consistency and control, and that might have been true when you first started working with your swing, but you have good control even if you're at the end of the club. And so the picture on the right is where you now are gripping it at the end of the club, and you maintain very consistent contact with the ball, but you also gain more club head speed because you've created a larger arc. I was really pleased how well you hit the ball by gripping it on the end, and I do think it's very important for you to continue that and become very comfortable with that new gripping position. Now we're comparing the before and after swings with your new weight shift, and you can see on the right where you are much more on the left-sided impact. You're not as hanging back on your back foot. Your right hip is inside that right and inside your right foot, so that's very good. So you want to continue that setup to be more centered and balanced, and stay more on top of your left-sided impact. Very good. As we continue past impact, again, you're doing a much better job of shifting to your front foot. You can see the difference between these two swings. It's much more of a flow towards the target now than falling backwards. So you basically have eliminated your reverse weight shift. Excellent. Here we are in the finishing position, and again, you have that right shoulder right on top of your left foot, whereas in the other swing you were falling back, your right shoulder is almost on top of your right foot. So you're really doing a much better job of swinging through the ball and towards the target. I can even see that your right foot the heel is coming off the ground, whereas in the swing before you were flat-footed on the right foot, and you're starting to shift and pull that foot off the ground a little bit more, which is a good indication of a very good weight shift. So just to recap, you want to grip at the end of the club. You want to set up your starting of the swing with a little bit more feeling of 50-50. Could even feel like you have a little bit more weight on your left side at the beginning. And you want to just stay on that left foot and turn through the ball, turn your hips and shoulders through the ball, just like we're seeing here. So continue working with that until it becomes really comfortable. And then the only other thing we talked about, which I think is important, is that the next club that you add to your bag should be a new driver with a little bit more of the technology that we've seen in the last few years. You don't have to go out and buy a brand new club, a 2012 model, but there's some good technology in the clubs, even if they're only a year or two old. So I would consider adding that club as your next club. When you hit Barry's driver, you hit it so much further than your own driver. And that's going to help you score better because you're going to be starting much closer to the green for your second shot.